Uncut Gems is the most anti-Semitic movie that I've ever seen. It reminded me of films that I've seen made by the Third Reich, such as Jesus and Die Rothschilds. It was the most unflattering portrayal of a Jewish character I've ever seen in a movie. And yet, somehow this movie was made by Jews for Jews and with the approval of Jews, which surprises me because the entire movie was essentially Adam Sandler running around like a chicken with its head cut off, doing basically the voice of Iago the parrot from Aladdin, and crying out in pain as he struck people. Like, he was basically okay. The premise of the movie is that Adam Sandler is a New York City gems dealer who basically swindles everyone that he crosses paths with. And some of these people who he tries to swindle include NBA basketball players and members of the Italian mafia. And he does really slimy, sleazy things. Like, for instance, when he sells someone a gem that they can't pay for immediately, he'll take a precious item of theirs as collateral, but then he'll sell the thing that they gave him as collateral to someone else, and then he'll be like, when they come back and ask him, was like, okay, I got the rest of the money. Could I have my ring back? And he'll be like, Ivy, what ring? What are you talking about? Why do you persecute me so? Like, that's not an exaggeration. That is actually how he acts and talks in the movie. And of course, he's unfaithful. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess he's divorced, so whatever. But at the same time, he behaves in a really sleazy way in general. He ignores his kids. He barely ever sees them. Um, he just dresses in a really crass way with all this flashy jewelry and just keeps swindling everyone. Um, so yeah, I mean, spoiler alert. Okay, if you don't want to hear spoilers, stop now. Yeah, he gets killed at the end of the movie because he tries to swindle the Italian mafia and they're not having it. So one of the mobsters shoots him in the head. And it's like, honestly, I've never felt less sympathy for a movie protagonist who died in his movie. Like, even my dad, who's normally like, he's never morbid when watching movies, but in this case, he was like glad that this guy got shot in the head because there's just nothing likable about him. He's the most unlikable movie character that I've ever encountered. He reminded me a bit of the Skeksis from The Dark Crystal. Like, that is basically how he was portrayed. So, my question is, the Jews who made this movie, why did they make it? They made a more anti-Semitic movie than the alt-right could have ever dreamed of making. So, I mean, honestly, that movie made me 10 times more anti-Semitic than I already was. Like, his character is just so unlikable and so smarmy and scheming and swindling. He just has every negative trait of the stereotypical Jewish shyster embodied in one person. So if you want to see a movie that is like basically the modern day version of Jesus or Die Rothschilds, I would recommend watching Uncut Gems.